Welcome to the Chambers of Confession. Take your seat, hit the like button, and subscribe. Here we listen. We don't judge. Now, let's hear what one of us has to say. This is... shit. I don't even know what this is. A confession? A warning? Maybe I just need to get this out of my head before it drives me completely insane. My name's not important. Been driving for 23 years. Clean record. Never even had a speeding ticket. Family man. Church on Sundays when I'm home. The kind of guy you'd trust to deliver your grandmother's china without breaking a piece. But I killed a man 5 months ago. And the thing is, I think I was supposed to. It started on a Thursday night run from Portland to Denver. Standard freight, electronics and computer components for some tech company. Nothing special about the load. Nothing special about the route. I-84 through the Columbia River Gorge. Connect to I-80 in Salt Lake. Straight shot to Colorado. I'd done this run maybe 50 times over the years. Know every truck stop, every way station, every good place to grab a meal. Usually takes me about 16 hours with breaks. Well within my logbook limits. Weather was turning nasty as I came through Oregon. Early November, first real storm of the season. Rain coming down in sheets. Wind gusts that push a loaded rig around if you weren't careful. Visibility was maybe a quarter mile, headlights barely cutting through the soup. I was making decent time despite the weather, but around 11 p.m. I started getting tired. That bone-deep fatigue that comes from fighting the wheel for 8 hours straight. DOT regs say you can't drive tired, and I've never been one to push it. Too many good drivers have died, because they thought they could make it just a little farther. So I started looking for a place to pull over. Problem was, the usual truck stops were either full or too far ahead. Finally saw a sign for a rest area about 10 miles outside the Dallas. Nothing fancy, just a state-run facility with parking and restrooms. But it'd do for a quick nap. The place was almost empty when I pulled in. Just one other truck parked way over by the far edge, and a couple of cars. Made sense, most smart drivers would have stopped hours ago or pushed through to better facilities. I backed into a spot near the restrooms, killed the engine, and settled in for a 4-hour break. That's when I saw him. Guy was standing under one of the parking lot lights, maybe 30 yards from my cab. Just standing there, middle-aged, average height, wearing a dark jacket and jeans. Nothing particularly unusual about him, except for the fact that he was standing in the pouring rain like it wasn't happening. I watched him for maybe 10 minutes. He didn't move, didn't seem to be waiting for anyone or looking for anything. Just stood there, staring at the trucks. Probably homeless, I figured. Or maybe just drunk. You see all kinds of people at rest stops, especially at night. Most drivers learn to mind their own business. Keep your doors locked. Don't make eye contact. Don't get involved. That's survival 101 on the road. But something about this guy bothered me. The way he was positioned. He had a clear view of every truck in the lot, and he kept checking his watch, like he was timing something. I was just starting to doze off when I heard footsteps on my passenger side. Heavy boots on wet asphalt, moving deliberately. I cracked the curtain on my sleeper window and saw the guy walking between the trucks, looking up at the cabs, checking license plates. Now I'm wide awake. This isn't random vagrant behavior. This is hunting behavior. I grabbed my cell phone to call 911, but there was no signal. Oregon's got dead zones all over the mountains. The CB radio was my next option. But at this hour, with this weather, chances of raising another driver were slim. The footsteps stopped right outside my cab. I held my breath, trying to stay perfectly still. My truck's got tinted windows, and with the interior lights off, he shouldn't be able to see inside. But I could see him, standing maybe 3 feet from my door, looking up at my cab like he was memorizing it. He pulled out a small notebook and wrote something down. Then he moved on to the next truck. I should have started my engine right then. Should have gotten the hell out of there. But I was curious now. And curiosity's gotten more drivers in trouble than speed or fatigue ever did. I wanted to know what this guy was up to. He checked every truck in the lot. Took maybe 20 minutes, moving methodically from rig to rig, always writing in that notebook. When he finished, he walked back to his original spot under the light and just waited. Around 2 a.m., a new truck pulled into the lot. Owner-operator rig, looked like an independent driver. Older Peterbilt, well-maintained, but showing its age. The driver parked near the restrooms and shut down. 5 minutes later, the guy in the rain started walking toward the new truck. I watched him approach the driver's side, saw him knock on the door. The cab light came on. Driver was probably checking his mirrors, trying to see who was bothering him. Smart move, but then the cab light went out, and I heard the door open. They talked for maybe 2 minutes. Couldn't hear what they were saying over the rain, but their body language looked normal. Just two guys having a conversation. Then the stranger handed the driver something, looked like an envelope, and walked away. The truck driver sat in his cab for another few minutes, reading whatever was in the envelope. Then he started his engine and pulled out of the lot. This whole thing was wrong, all wrong, but I still didn't understand what I was seeing. The guy in the rain went back to his spot under the light, checked his watch again, kept waiting. Around 3:30, another truck arrived. Same routine. The guy approached, talked to the driver, handed over an envelope. This driver also read whatever was inside, then immediately left the rest area. That's when it clicked. This wasn't random. This guy was intercepting drivers, giving them something that made them change their plans. Messages, maybe, or instructions. And he knew exactly when they'd be arriving, like he had their schedules. I thought about the independent drivers who'd been going missing over the past year. News reports about trucks found abandoned, drivers vanished without a trace, always on remote stretches of highway, always during bad weather when visibility was poor. My dispatcher had warned us about hijackers getting more sophisticated, said they were using technology to track shipments, targeting specific loads. But this looked like something bigger than cargo theft. Around 4 a.m., headlights swept across the lot as another truck turned in. But this time, something was different. As soon as the stranger saw the truck, he stepped back into the shadows, waited until the driver parked and shut down, then approached much more carefully. This conversation was longer, more animated. I could see both men gesturing, their voices getting louder, even though I couldn't make out words. Finally, the stranger handed over an envelope, but the driver immediately gave it back and shook his head. Bad move. The stranger pulled something from his jacket. Even from 50 yards away, in the rain, I could see it was a gun. The driver put his hands up, took the envelope back, and nodded rapidly. But instead of leaving like the others, this driver just sat in his cab for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like he was trying to decide what to do. The stranger was getting agitated. He kept looking at his watch, pacing back and forth under the light. Whatever was supposed to happen next, it was behind schedule. Finally, the truck driver made his choice. He opened his door and stepped out of the cab. But instead of getting back in to drive away, he started walking toward the restrooms. The stranger followed him. They disappeared around the back of the building, and I lost sight of them. But 2 minutes later, I heard a shout, then a gunshot. Only one set of footsteps came back around the building. The stranger walked to the truck the driver had abandoned, climbed into the cab and drove it out of the lot, left the driver's body behind the restrooms like trash. I sat there for maybe an hour, shaking, trying to figure out what to do. Call the cops when I got signal, report a murder, but what could I tell them? Some guy at a rest stop was recruiting drivers for something, and when one refused, he got shot? They'd want details, names, descriptions. They'd want me to testify. And if this operation was big enough to have people positioned at random rest stops in the middle of nowhere, tracking driver schedules, recruiting or eliminating people who didn't cooperate, what would they do to a witness? I thought about my wife, my kids, my 15-year-old grandson, who wants to be a truck driver like his grandpa. Around 5:30, just before dawn, I heard another truck pulling into the lot. The stranger was back. Same spot under the light. Same notebook, same routine, waiting for the next driver. This time, I knew what I had to do. I climbed down from my cab, grabbed the tire iron from my toolbox, and walked over to him. "Morning," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He looked up from his notebook, smiled like we were old friends. "Morning. Hell of a storm, isn't it?" "Yeah," I said, "hell of a storm." I hit him with the tire iron before he could react. Caught him right across the temple, dropped him like a sack of grain. He was dead before he hit the pavement. I could tell from the way his head twisted when he fell. I took his notebook, his wallet, his gun, dragged his body into the woods behind the rest area, and covered it with fallen branches. Then I got back in my truck and drove to Denver like nothing happened. The notebook was the worst part. pages and pages of driver information, names, routes, schedules, cargo manifests. Some names were marked with green ink, others with red. The green ones had phone numbers and addresses next to them, family information. The red ones just had dates and locations. I counted 47 red entries. 47 drivers who probably said no. There were 3 other rest areas listed in Oregon, plus locations in Nevada, Utah, Wyoming. A whole network of recruitment points, each one staffed by people like the guy I killed. People who knew exactly when certain drivers would be passing through. I burned the notebook at a truck stop outside Denver. Threw the gun in the Platte River. Told myself I'd done the right thing, that I'd stopped something evil. But I keep thinking, what if I was wrong? What if that guy was federal law enforcement running some kind of undercover operation? What if those drivers weren't being recruited for something illegal, but for something legitimate that required secrecy? What if I just murdered a cop? And even if I was right, even if I stopped one recruiter, there are others. The notebook proved that. This thing is bigger than one man at one rest stop. I should report it, should tell someone what I saw, what I found. But who would believe me? And even if they did, how long before the people running this operation figured out who talked? So I keep driving, keep my mouth shut, keep my doors locked, and my tire iron closed. But every time I pull into a rest area at night, every time I see someone standing alone under the lights, I wonder if it's starting again. And I wonder if next time I'll have the guts to do what needs to be done, or if next time I'll be the one getting the envelope. That's it. That's my confession. I killed a man, and I don't know if he deserved it. Don't know if I saved lives or just made everything worse. But I know one thing. Whatever that guy was part of, it's still out there. Still recruiting drivers. Still eliminating the ones who won't cooperate. So if you're listening to this, if you're a driver, be careful out there. Watch for people who seem to know too much about your schedule. Don't take envelopes from strangers. And if someone offers you a job that seems too good to be true, or asks you to haul cargo without asking questions, remember what happened to those 47 drivers whose names were written in red ink. That's all for tonight, Chamberlains. What are your thoughts? Share them in the comments. And if you have a confession you'd like the Chamber to listen to, do not hesitate. Forward them. Remember, we listen. We don't judge. Subscribe and don't forget to hit the like button. See you in the chambers. Same time, tomorrow.